Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. We're here until 8 o'clock taking your phone calls and talking Charlotte 49ers basketball. And that phone number again is 704-332-0173. 704-332-0173. Alongside the coach, Alan Major, and Lanny Ford, I'm Matt Swarat. Thanks for joining us tonight. And this is more of a light week for the 49ers. In conference play, we do not play again until this coming weekend, the homecoming game on Saturday at 2 o'clock at Halton Arena against the University of Massachusetts. So, Coach, it's a chance, you mentioned after the game at George Washington this past weekend, a chance to kind of get a couple of days off, the guys kind of regroup. Now that we're, 20 games into the season already,
right? And
then kind of get back to work for the next game against UMass.
Yeah, and my apologies, by the way, on Saturday. I didn't mean to leave you hanging there after the game. I'm surprised you didn't just go get on the bus, but sorry about that. But yeah, it gives us a chance to, I call it being on training camp mode, which we really, we haven't done that since Christmas. We came back from Christmas, and we had a few days to do that before playing Asheville. So we'll get a chance to take today, or tomorrow and Wednesday, and really just talk about ourselves, focus on ourselves. There might be some UMass stuff sprinkled in there in practice, without specifically talking about them. But then we'll get into Thursday and Friday in terms of personnel and prep, where it's, heavy UMass in terms of practice. But it does give you a chance to kind of get back to focusing on ourselves for a couple of days.
Knock on wood, we've avoided mostly this season any kind of serious injury. E. Victor was out for a little while during the Alaska trip because of an ankle injury. But outside of that, the guy's been pretty healthy all season long. But have you found now, as we are 20 games into this 30-game season, that are any of the guys starting to hit the wall a little bit, maybe just mentally fatigued?
Not that I know. I tell you, this is the time of year you look for that, too. That's a tremendous question. And every sport has their deal. I mean, baseball's got dog days in August, as they say. But so far, I don't think so. And I've been on the lookout for that because of the fact that it's been an uncommon year. We've really been going since the Bahamas trip. There's just been a little bit of a break in there in September, and then a little bit one in October, and then Christmas. But that's been it. So up to this point, no. And I really look at more of the freshmen. Because they're the ones that haven't been through a grind like this. Most high school seasons, those guys are wrapping up here in about 3 weeks. So in college, usually going to about, the first week of March. So far so good, but that's another knock on wood as well.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Coach, when you look at some really tough road losses, 3 bad road losses, and the mental aspect of the game is very important, especially with as young as you are. How much do you think that will start to play into their psyche a little bit when they go back out on the road again, letting that kind of creep into their mind?
Yeah, it could, but I think, we got some time to kind of go preventative maintenance, with that. I think the one common thread on all 3 of those road games has been you have a team that was really right to play against us. And that's been probably one of the toughest things in coaching, not just for me, but any coach, is trying to get your guys to see sometimes how bad people want to play against you, because it's a measure, how they're measuring themselves. Maybe not so much Miami, but we were undefeated going into Miami, and one of their assistants had told us after the game, hey, we jacked up our guys that you were one of the few undefeated teams in the country. Richmond had just come off a loss to LaSalle. And so they were, 1-2 and sitting in a almost a must-win kind of home situation in a sense. Since then, sparked on going to beat VCU. Then you got, we had played Xavier last Wednesday, great home win, tremendous home win. Well, GW sitting there and saying, wonder if we can go out and play well against these guys, gives us a chance and to measure ourselves against what they've done. So that's what happens in college basketball. That deal goes from time to time, but all 3 of our losses have had that same effect.
And I've seen it in the write-ups and when you talk about game notes, and you make the comment all the time also. One of the things that this team is having to deal with that you haven't dealt with in the previous 2 years, kind of off the same question, is now you've got people that are actually gunning for you. Not that they'd look past you the previous 2 years, but now they take you a whole lot more serious. And to where you prep up for a game, to where you're trying to upset somebody, now that bullseyes on your back, and,
Right.
and trying to convey that to these younger kids.
Right. There's not a single guy in our locker room that's been through that.
Right. I mean, you don't. They don't know what that's like.
Right.
They don't know how to deal with that because they haven't been there yet.
It's an unbelievable point you just made. I mean, absolutely right. And what happens is, we've been in that situation where we've kind of gunned for people. Tennessee, Xavier in our first year, Davidson maybe last year.
Right.
Where you're trying to measure yourself against them, and the excitement. This sounds, probably you have to take this in the interpretation of how I'm saying it. The excitement in GW's gym after they beat us, they were extremely, extremely excited. In the first couple of years here, people haven't been that excited to beat us. When other teams are excited to play against you and they happen to win, obviously you hate losing the game, but their reaction shows that we're headed in a direction that's good, because when it means something to people to beat you, that's a good sign.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. There's so many aspects to this game. It's not just playing the game.
Right.
And this is a brand new facet
Totally.
to this group of kids
Totally.
that do not know how to react to that at this point, because
Yeah.
they have always been on that other side.
Right. No one's ever been
they've
there.
never been on the side that's being
That's a
attacked.
great point. Unbelievable point.
Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Coach, one thing I've noticed this year in college basketball on the men's side, it's something you see, quite a bit on the women's side of college basketball, where you can have two top 10 teams playing and there could be a 30-point win in that game by somebody, where you very rarely see that on the men's side. But this year in particular, there have been a lot of really good teams that have had, whether it was an off night or whatever, that have had a very lopsided scores. This is something we're seeing this year.
Right.
It's been not just, unfortunately for us, but it's been happening to a lot of people.
Right.
State had Carolina down by 30 the other day. Duke
Right.
lost to Miami by over 30. And
Right.
there are other teams around the country that had days like that too.
Yeah, and you look at those two games you just mentioned. I mean, State hadn't beaten Carolina since what? Was it 07?
It was 8 games. It was an 8 games.
Right
straight.
around 2007,
Yeah.
right around there. I don't know when. If Miami, I think, won at Duke last year, but Duke being number one, again, there's your measuring stick, right? If we play well against Duke,
Well, when you look at a blowout against Duke, then you know that it can happen to anybody.
right? So you even as much as you don't like it, but that's what you're getting. And that's a sign of the parity that's going on in college basketball too. And people thought, well, when would Duke and Carolina ever be in those situations? But that's what happens. I mean, it's that spread out in terms of the talent level and the parity in college basketball. It's really something. And then, you have a team like, here's Louisville on TV as we're looking, and they've lost 3 straight.
Yeah, 3 in a row. They were number one in the country. They've lost 3 in a row now.
Right.
And it's almost like you don't want to be number one right now, because you're going to get a losing streak coming up right around the corner.
You don't want to be number
Yeah.
one until about April the 3rd.
Exactly.
Well, and they were talking about today when they were talking about college basketball. You look at the teams that are going to cycle through that number 1 slot.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the tournament time, and you're talking about filling out that tournament field,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of top teams in the country that's not going to be there with
No
just
question.
a loss. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not going to happen.
Yep. There's no doubt. No.
Niners are sitting at 16-4 right now, 4-2 in the conference. They're tied for second. There's a big logjam right now for second behind Butler, who has 1 loss going into this week. And one of those teams is LaSalle, Coach, a team that we beat at our place to start the conference season. And look at what they've gone and done. And again, it proves what we've been talking about all year long, how every single night, doesn't matter who you're playing in the A-10,
Right.
anybody can beat anybody. And in this span of now, 7 days, LaSalle has taken down, at that time, number 9 Butler. They're
Yeah.
still actually 9th in one of the polls this week. And then they go to VCU and knock off VCU.
Right. No, life in the A-10 this year, you ever see those prison movies where a guy's hunched over his food eating? That's life in the A-10 this year. Because if you sit up straight, somebody's going to reach into your plate and whatever they're serving through the slop line that day. Could be your pork chops or whatever it is. But, you see guys in jail, they're hunched over their tray eating like this. Well, what that means in this league is that's how you've got to look at yourself and your own team and how you go about your daily prep, your daily practice, getting yourself better. Because if you sit up and you start looking around, what's going to happen is you're going to look down and your plate will be empty because you're looking at whatever's going on around you. You're thinking 2 games ahead, 3 games ahead. What might happen here? This might happen there. You can't do that to yourself. You got to hunch over your own plate and and eat. You know, so that's kind of the situation in this league. If it's beyond the fine line, it's gone. You know, that last 2 years has been a fine line. This year is a fuzzy line.
Yeah.
It's gone from fine to fuzzy.
You know, and talking about the league as a whole, I know you don't look at it, but we do as we do analysis on it. But you start looking at RPI, and the A10 is as well represented inside the top tier of that RPI as any conference in the nation.
As well it should be.
And it shows what kind of competition is here in the A10.
Yeah.
And just, you know, as you said, how much parity, not just between teams, but almost between conferences.
Absolutely. No, there's no question. A10 was going to be this way probably without Butler and VCU. I mean, people were talking about it last spring at the conference meetings, how tough it was going to be before those guys got added in the summer. And then when you throw them, you throw them in the summer in what already, was going to be a gaslit fire. I mean, it's basically just, let's just throw another tank of gasoline into what is already going to be a flaming inferno, and that's what you got. So, I think the coaches within the league saw it coming. The fact that, it was just going to be a pretty wild deal.
You never know what you're going to get, and that's for sure. We saw Richmond last Thursday take down VCU, and in that game, Darien Brothers hit a big three at the buzzer at regulation to tie it at 69. They go on and win in overtime, and then UMass beats Richmond yesterday, and Darien Brothers can't throw it in the ocean. He's 3 for 15, so you just never know.
Yeah, we caught him. We caught him about 10 days late there, 8 days late.
Just a little bit. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We'll take a break here on the Alan Major Show from Wild Wing Cafe. It's brought to you from IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe, 711 West Mallard Creek Church Road with Landy Ford and Alan Major. I'm Matt Swarad. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We're here until 8 o'clock talking 49er basketball as the Niners have their homecoming game coming up this Saturday at 2 o'clock at Halton Arena. They take on the University of Massachusetts, and also at 11:15 in the morning, it is the annual alumni game. We'll talk more about that as we go forward as well. But we have a question from the audience today. And before we get to that, Coach, since I did bring up that game the other day where Richmond took down VCU last Thursday, and Richmond was down something like 6 with 40 seconds to go, and just hit some big shots. Anthony hit one. The one that tied it was hit by Brothers, and it was about a 27, 28-footer. And there was some thought after that free throw that was made, do you foul, do you not foul? And
you're up 3.
Yeah, you're up 3. Do you foul? Do you give him a chance to hit one? Do you play defense? And it wasn't like it was an easy shot. I mean, he hit a long 3, and he wasn't shooting the ball particularly well.
Right.
But that's a tough spot, isn't it? You got to make that decision.
Yeah.
Is it a philosophy that if you believe in it, you're going to do it one way all the time, or is it you take it game by game?
I think guys tend to settle on one thought or the other. Some of it depends on the game situation, but sometimes the idea is if you foul, then multiple things have to go wrong in order for them to tie it up. They've got to make both free throws, they got to make a free throw, then they've got to miss one. Then they've got to get the offensive rebound somehow. Then they've got to get the ball back outside the three-point line and make a shot, or to either win it or whatever they're trying to do, or tie it back up, or get if they want to just try to get it, it's easier said than done. But most people will say, let's go ahead and foul, because if you don't foul, only one thing has to go wrong. Meaning that
I'm fouling.
They make it. Yeah,
I'm fouling.
So that's as opposed to making a free throw, then missing one, then they got to try to get it back and put it back in and all that. Multiple things got to go wrong. So
I'll follow that up with, is that something you guys in practice work on? Because it's one thing to foul.
Yeah.
But say your mindset is to foul, and they do get the ball up the court, and Brothers are going to take that shot. Now, if you hit him,
in the act of
you got a chance at losing the game.
No, you got to do it to where a little bit of time goes off, but he's not in shooting range. So that's another. We do some special situation stuff at times where, you have to look at that and you give one team a lead, or you'll have a tie score and you'll put 2 minutes up. You'll play a 2-minute game, and then those situations will play out based on made free throws, missed free throws, whatever. So But I'm with Lanny. I think you got to, without getting in shooting range, because you hack them.
You apply the pressure.
You got to get them before that.
Coming down the floor.
Yeah.
And then about the time they get their half-court offense set up, you foul.
Yeah.
And put him on the line and then go from there.
Yeah, because you get them too early now. Not enough.
That's too much time
has gone off. So you try to burn 4, 5, 6 seconds, whatever it is. So.
Because you know what it takes to set up a half-court and get a possession to get a basket.
Right.
So you know about how much time you don't want to leave on the clock.
Exactly.
You're listening to the Allen Major Show. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Coach, the question that came from the audience today it concerns the Xavier game last Wednesday. The Niners winning that ball game at Halton 63-57. Denzel Ingram played really well, and the question concerned Denzel and his athleticism, and talk about his play in his freshman season. He's from Chapel Hill, and he's had some big moments, and that game against Xavier was one of those big moments.
Yeah, I think he made a tremendous towards late in the game. I can't remember quite how much time was left, but they had a breakaway layup, and he started, about it seemed like 10 yards, behind the guy. I say yards because he was a former football player. He was a running back up to 8th grade. So.
Don't tell Brad.
Oh, he's already off limits. That's another guy. He's disqualified from talking to, but just a tremendous hustle play. And I think someone had mentioned he, sitting over by them in the corner, he jumped up on an out of bounds play and was high off the ground. He's an athletic kid. He's very fast. Stronger than you look. I mean, he's put together pretty well already to be a freshman. Has done a great job in the weight room as a freshman. And so, he made some plays in that game, especially shooting the ball in the first half that, kind of in a muddy first half, but it helped us, continue on to end up being able to take the lead at halftime.
As his play evolves and he gets, deep into his Niners career, do you envision him being more of a point guard or sliding over to that 2 spot much?
Yeah, what we do is we technically have 2 point guards. Obviously Perry is a point guard, and Denzel is too by trade. And if you really watch us, there's times that he'll be on the ball and Perry will roam. Other times Perry will be on the ball and Denzel will roam. So in a sense, you're starting 2 point guards, and a lot of times it doesn't have to be, that this one guy just runs it, for the entire game. It gives you some flexibility, to be quite honest, to be able to, take one guy off the ball and then put him, run him off some screens or whatever you want to do.
One of the things I like about him from the very beginning, he's not a big guard at 5'11", but he brings an offensive punch, but he also gives you what you need on defense. He understands how important that is to play that side of the ball. And the one thing that I hated that did happen, it was in the Xavier game, he got the foul when he made the dive
the
half court on the loose ball.
Yeah, great effort play.
I mean, just a great effort play.
Yeah.
And to see that he'll lay out,
yeah,
he can shoot the 3, he can shoot, he can drive, he plays defense, handle the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's just a freshman.
Yeah.
And he understands and accepts that responsibility.
Yeah, now you hate to see a hustle play end up
foul.
Yeah. But no, he as you watched him all through high school AAU ball, he was always associated with winning teams. And, sometimes that's as big an X factor as a guy can have because, a lot of times size, people want a guy that's, 6'3", 6'4". A lot of times, they want the, super athlete guy who put his, elbow above the rim. All those things are great. But I think when you have a pedigree of winning, there's something to be said for that. And the AAU team was, I think 260-some wins and 30 losses or something like that, High school team his senior year, I want to say they were 25-2, 26-2, and he was a big part of that. I'm not, they have other kids,
right?
And I'm not saying he was the sole reason, but if he's not on that team, there's probably some other guys that don't have as good a year because he draws attention, and he was able to distribute and get the ball to other people throughout his high school career. So, he's had some success with winning as well.
Yeah, I would think when you're out there recruiting, it's hard to teach somebody how to win if they've never experienced winning before. So you've got a kid like Denzel that's experienced it. You bring in Darian Clark, who had that great winning streak at Oak Hill. And, and that stuff kind of, they've been there. They've won games, close games. They know how to get over the hump.
Exactly.
And they get here, and they kind of, when you get in a close game, they know what it's like to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never have to have that conversation about it.
Right.
Because if somebody hasn't been through it before they get here, then they could come in with the tendency of, well, wait a minute, isn't this about me? And then no, it's not about you. So when guys have won, that it just chops out one conversation that you have to have about the importance of winning. I mean, heck, I feel bad now that I'm giving Darian 4 losses after being undefeated. He's probably mad at me, but now both those guys come in, and Willie in his own way. I mean, made it to a few high school state championship games. Didn't win one, but got right there. Victor's won a state title. Mike Thorne won a state title. So, you have some guys. Perry Henry got 2 football state titles and got to the quarterfinals his senior year in high school. So in basketball. So you have some guys that have been through it, which is great.
We haven't talked much about the Xavier win yet. That was last week, and that was a big win for the 49ers. They win by 6, and going into the game, we talked about how Xavier, this year anyway, the matchup, it was like the Niners were looking in the mirror. And, very similar styles, and it was a good game that the Niners were able to pull out the victory at the end. But, it was a typical Xavier battle. It was very physical.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was. It was two teams mirrored themselves, and again, they had been, and to this point still are, one of the earmarks in this league. And people nationally think about the A-10. They're one of the first teams that come up. So, I'll be honest, our guys probably measured, hey, where are we versus that? And then when you end up, you're fortunate enough to win the game, now that, again, that's that bullseye you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you don't, they don't quite understand that. If you've been through it, you get it. But you've got to go through it in order to get it, and that's valuable experience to get that.
Coach, we'll take our next break, and because of some class requirements tonight, we weren't able to have a player guest, but we do have Mark Bielkowski, who is in his first year as the Director of Basketball Operations with the 49ers staff, and he'll be joining us and kind of get some insight of what he does on that side of the coaching staff. And we'll talk to Mark coming up in a moment. We'll be back with Coach a little bit later on. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. This is the Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe from IMG College. Our phone number 704-332-0173. And our special guest today is assistant coach Mark Bielkowski. And Mark, first of all, thanks for taking some time to join us here tonight. I hope you're doing well.
Doing great. Doing real good. Thank you for having me.
Now, you've been with the program for a while now as a grad assistant, and this year you kind of slid up to one of the director of basketball operation spots, and it's certainly a new role for you. And talk about how it's been going so far in the transition from being, really still a student, taking classes, being a GA, and now really being a coach.
Really, opportunity is the word I like to use. It's just a lot of fun. I kind of expand my role and responsibilities a little bit. Just be one of those guys who are kind of first in, last to leave, just as organized as I can be. And just, last couple of years I've kind of had, the opportunity to do a lot of video work. Kind of get my footprint in a lot of scouting reports and watch a lot of film. And now it's more of kind of behind the scenes administrative work, whether it's travel, itineraries, making sure guys are where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. And just opportunity and the chance to have more responsibility. It's been a lot of fun so far.
When I asked Mark what was the most exciting thing about getting elevated to this position after being a GA, he said, well, he knows his landlord's happy because now he can pay the rent.
No question. I mean, it's not why we're here, but it's definitely, he's happy. If he's happy, I'm definitely happy. No question about it. No question about it.
Well, you guys certainly put a lot of time on campus and what you do behind the scenes. And part of your job, you kind of split the Director of Basketball Operations job with Stephen Doughton, who does some of the travel stuff, and you do some of the other things with travel and deal with the buses and stuff. And a lot of logistics involved that a lot of folks don't realize. That first road trip, were there any butterflies thinking, okay, hope these things show up at the right time?
There was, especially when their first one was the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah?
We're going kind of out of the country for the first time. And, I just want to make sure, we land where we're supposed to land, and the bus is going to be there, and the team we're playing is going to actually show up. We didn't know a whole lot going into the Bahamas, but it was definitely a learning experience. It was a lot of fun. Coach Perrin's been absolutely great to me. He kind of let me kind of in with his world year in, year out, and kind of what he does on a day-to-day basis. So when I kind of got the opportunity, I had at least had a foundation of what to expect and what to do, and I got to thank him for a lot of that.
Tell you what, that is the worst feeling when you get someplace and that bus is not there. It's happened to me once during baseball season, landing in Philadelphia with 30 guys and no bus. So hopefully it never happens to you. You know, when you look at this team, and you've been with the program for a while now, and you've seen some of the guys come and go, and now these young guys, as they've gotten more experience, it has to be an exciting time for you because you've been here for a while, and you've seen the down and now seen it coming back up.
No question. It's kind of neat to kind of the Chris Braswell and the Kobe Lewises. My first year, they were freshmen, so kind of see the maturation process and kind of see them sophomore year, junior year get better and grow as a person a little bit and see them take tougher classes and just things like that. It's kind of why you're kind of in it, so to speak. You know, to help young men. You know, you got to be passionate about the game, but you also got to be passionate to help these men kind of do their day-to-day logistics. You know, make sure, like I said before, where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there.
A lot of people don't understand how much behind-the-scenes things actually do go on, and you're kind of giving people a peek behind the curtain. And also the personal aspect, the human side, as you were talking about with the players. Talk a little bit more about how much you get involved with what they do, not just making sure the logistics are handled.
Absolutely. It's a day-to-day process. You know, I'm probably texting or calling each one of our guys constantly throughout the day. You know, just making sure they understand what's expected of them, understand that they're kind of in that fishbowl setting. So everything they kind of do is kind of perceived by so many different people, whether it's a student in their class, whether it's a teacher, whether it's, you know, anybody upstairs in administration looking at them and expecting them to do things in certain roles a certain way. So a lot of it sometimes it's just kind of showing them the right way to do things, especially with a younger team like we do have, is how to dress, how to act in front of certain people, and just little things like that kind of help them kind of, you know, get a little edge, whether it's, you know, on the floor or off the court. Is anything I can do to help? I think that's my biggest role, is how can I help you today? And then, you know, obviously having them understand what's today. You know, what are we doing logistically today? You know, do they know when practice is? Do you know where practice is? You know, do they know what to wear on the road? Do they know when are we going to eat, when are we going to watch film? Make sure they're fully prepared so when Coach Major steps into the office or into the court, it just kind of clicks.
They're waiting on him.
Exactly, and we're ready to roll. And that's what we try to do.
Your background starts at Georgia Southern when you went to school there, and you had a dream of being a college basketball coach, and it's got to this point now. And with the 49ers, you see guys kind of in the same spot as you, whether it be Stephen Doughton, who was a manager and now wants to be into the coaching side, and also guys like Kyle Church, who left as a walk-on player with the 49ers, and he's now an assistant coach. Last year was at Louisiana Tech. I think he's at Chipola Junior College this year. Colby Lewis says
Very
he wants
similar.
to coach.
Very similar.
So, they can draw from your experiences as well.
Very similar. And even like a graduate assistant, Bryce Crawford now, we kind of hire managers and graduate assistants that want to be coaches. Because those are the guys that are going to want to be in the office, going to want to kind of grind with you day in and day out. And they're the ones who want to learn. I remember when I was a manager, I just tried to be a sponge. I try to watch the coach as much as possible, watch the players, just try to understand, in a certain game situation, off the court, on the court, what would I do in that situation? And just try to, sponge as much as we can. And our manager have done a great job. Most of our managers want to be coaches, which is great because it's easy. Can Bryce, can you go help with this? Not a problem, coach. Not a problem. Or Paul, can you do this? Not a problem, coach. What can I do next? And that's kind of invigorating too, to kind of see that too, because I remember not that long ago I was one of them too. So it's definitely a neat process.
Mark, doing a great job. Really appreciate everything you do for us. Keep up the good work. Thanks for taking the time tonight.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you again down the road.
Yes, sir.
Niner assistant coach, director of basketball operations, Mark Bielkowski has been our guest here tonight. Brought to us by Ortho Carolina, official team physicians of the Charlotte 49ers. We will take a break, come back with more with Coach Major here at the Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe, here until 8 o'clock. So we've got about 24 more minutes of the show tonight. Love to hear from you. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. That's 332-0173. The Niners are off until this weekend when they take on the University of Massachusetts on Saturday afternoon. Coach, before we start talking about the next ball game, there is a game that I know you really have a lot of affection for. That's the alumni game at 11:15 on Saturday. And one of your goals when you came here 3 years ago was to re-energize, if you want to use that word, to bring guys in this program back into the program and have them be more a part of Niner basketball. And I thought last year we had a huge showing of players come back for that game.
Yeah.
So this is the fourth edition, and what do you expect? Well, I guess the third edition. Excuse me.
Yeah. Last year I think it was 56 guys made it back, which is the highest number they've had. And not that we've arrived with it yet, but it's growing. And one of the things we talked about as a staff when we first got here is developing an appreciation for, kind of a past, present, future mindset, meaning that if you treat the guys that put this whole thing together, the right way, and then you take care of, the current guys as best you can the right way, then that'll give you the best chance to get the guys you want down the line, the future guys, recruits. So it's kind of a timeline mindset. And, we've just tried to reach out to them, make them feel welcome. I told them I don't want a dime. This isn't about money. This isn't about, well, let's put the hook in their mouth so they can write a check. It's not about that at all. It's just the guys that it's honoring the past and the guys that, basically built what we have now. Our guys' locker room, the weight room, practice facility, all the things that these kids have access to now was off the backs of those guys that sweating it out up in Belk Gym. So it's their home. It will always be their home. We told them if you ever call for permission to come by, watch practice, if you ever call, that I'm going to hang the phone up on you because you should never have to call and ask permission to go home. I say, would some of you guys call your wife to ask permission to go home? Probably only if you stayed out too late or something. But other than that, it's their home. So we're just kind of here for the moment, but it's always going to be their home.
And that game is fun to watch. Some of those guys still really competitive. Byron Dinkins doesn't like to lose, and he can still play with just about anybody out there.
Our first year, he scored 32 points.
Wow.
The game ended. I was on my phone in the office trying to call the NCAA to see if we could activate him for one game, almost like a one-day contract in the NBA or something. But no, he's still in great shape. He's doing a phenomenal job coaching over at Northside Christian, by the way. I think they're 21-2 right now. I saw them play last week up at High Point. But he's doing a terrific job. And Joe Badgett is his assistant coach.
Okay.
So you got a couple of former guys, college roommates, and now they're coaching together over at Northside Christian. So it's just neat to see. And, I mean, when they come back, it's probably the single most humbling thing that I experience just from being here.
A lot of former Niners now getting into coaching. Mitchell Baldwin doing some good things now, and a lot of guys, if not in the area, DeMarco Johnson wanted to get back, and he's coaching in college basketball now. Yeah, it's great to see these guys out there doing it. Benny Moss we're going to go watch him because we're off on Wednesday. We're going to go watch Benny's team play at Winthrop. He's at Coastal Carolina on Wednesday night. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I always tease, Mark and Bryce and some of our other younger guys. Just give me a chance to talk you out of it. You guys say you want to do it now. but no, we got some unbelievable I want to give Mark and Steven, you guys know him affectionately as Red, but those two have kind of become a two-headed ops monster. And, the stuff that they do that people never see, that the average fan never sees, to get us ready just for one day or 1 day of travel or one road trip, it's absolutely off the charts. And I want to make sure those guys know we appreciate him.
And Mark was so good, I never got to probably what he wanted to talk about, and that was camp. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you know anything about it, since Mark was just here, touch on camp this summer because some things are changing.
Yeah, a little bit. We're going to keep a couple on campus, and then we're going to move over to Carolina Courts out in Concord. Maybe get into a little different Niner fan base out there to reach out a little bit. Mark is clearly way more qualified than me to talk about it because he's, the next time he and I will probably talk about it will be sometime in the spring. And then after that, it will be where you want me on the first day, But we're going to reach out and expand our wings a little bit with camp. And a lot of our players will be working camp. It's a neat thing for them. Now they get a taste of coaching and how I feel during the season when they're trying to chase around 9-year-olds to get them in layup lines and do all that stuff. So, but no, we'll be doing most of them in June, and then we have a couple of high school elite camps, as well and that we'll do at least one of those will be in August. So it's a great time of the year just to kind of get the program out there.
And fans can keep track of what's going on with the camps and what is going to be out there just by going to the website, charlotte49ers.com, the basketball page. And as soon as that stuff's available, it'll be up on there. And fans can certainly jump on board. It's always a great time for the kids. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We're going to take a break. This is the Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Coming up with the Niners is the University of Massachusetts on Saturday at 2 o'clock at Halton Arena. It is homecoming, always a fun event with fans coming back. And I'm guessing this is going to be the last, I didn't check on this, I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but the last basketball homecoming, because with football starting next year, that kind of traditionally goes back to the football season with homecoming. Yeah. And with the first year of the program, I'm guessing that might flip over. So this is a real special homecoming.
Yeah, I would assume so. I haven't thought that far ahead, but that's usually at most schools the way it works. It tends to be a football event, if a school has it. So, but no, it's always a neat atmosphere, and that game is great. Last year, I just drew a blank on the big kid.
They played for us?
Yeah, Alex.
Cool.
Yeah, Alexander. Yeah, Alexander Cool. It's a last-second shot, side out of bounds, and he screens, and they, two guys switch out. He steps to the ball. They throw it to him. He shoots a fadeaway, and the thing is in the air forever. It hits the back of it. He almost wins the game.
I remember that.
The game was tied. I mean, what a great game! Like an alumni game tied. Like usually you got one group that might get a little tired, and it's a little bit of a cushiony win, but this thing was tied. I mean, guys were going at it, playing hard. And here he is. He misses a buzzer beater. So an alumni game went into overtime. And but Coach Rose coached one team. Coach Mullins coached another team. And those guys, to me, they have been my, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda for me since I've been here. Those two have just been tremendous. So it's a neat game, and it's a neat day.
And with UMass coming in now, they play on Wednesday. We're off this week. They play Wednesday against LaSalle, and another test for LaSalle. Chaz Williams is the leading scorer for UMass. Tell us a little bit what you know. I know you haven't dove too much into UMass yet, but here's the team that kind of middle of the pack coming in, and they have some nights they look really good, and some other nights where they still have a tough time hitting their stride.
Yeah, they're a streaky team. They can. What's Clark Kellogg's deal? Spurtability.
Yeah.
They've got that. Where Chaz kind of triggers everything they do, especially the transition game. He can get to the rim. He's strong. Hofstra transfer, so he's approaching his fourth-year guy now, approaching a fifth-year guy, but he's been through a lot. Terrell Vincent is kind of like a 3-4 man that's versatile, can score. He's a driver. They lost the kid Jesse Morgan to a knee injury that was averaging 13 a game. So, but Derek's done a good job of trying to kind of manufacturing it through some other guys. Raphael Putney's a very long, athletic kind of, can shoot threes. They'll put him at the top of their zone. He's a big, lanky dude. Katie Lalonde is a post player that started some games. He's come off the bench some, but he's just a big, strong kid that can score inside. So they've got some pieces to their deal. The two words we're going to give to our guys for them is get ready, because they're very good in transition. And it's almost like a football team that goes no huddle, meaning that there's not a whole lot of delay between our made basket and them coming at you. So you play a no huddle team in football, your defense, if you sub, you better sub.
Right.
If your huddle, you got to have your calls rolling for the defense, because that they're coming back up to that line of scrimmage in a hurry. So UMass has that in their deal. And then in the half court, you got to do a great job of trying to stay in front of them, because they're very good when they get the drive and kick. They can make threes, and then they'll full court press you to try to speed you up and turn you over. So, we'll have some things that we'll have to be ready for. But DK's done a very good job up there.
Losing Morgan certainly hurt them, and when Coach Kellogg got there, he did kind of ramp up the style of play and try to push the ball. How deep are they going now? Losing Morgan certainly hurts in terms of depth in the rotation.
Yeah, they've still got some other guys. I would say at least 8. You throw Freddie Riley in there. Seems like he's been at UMass forever, but he's a three-point shooter. Maxie Isho is a kind of a 6'8" 4-man that they'll bring in. They got a young kid, Trey Davis, that jumps in there and will play with Chaz Williams or without him. So they've got some guys. I mean, they're at least still, right around 8 deep for sure.
They seem to be, like a lot of teams are all over the country, pretty good at home at the Mullins Center. You get them on the road, and they can have their ups and downs, and hopefully this will be one of those downs this weekend.
Right. That's our third knock on wood of the night right there. But who's counting?
Is there more than a coincidence to that? Because it's not just A-10. There's a lot of that seems to be going on in college basketball where teams just are not playing well away from home, regardless of how good they are.
And I think in conference play, that just gets elevated even more. Not that it's easy to win in non-conference on the road. I mean, you go anywhere on the road, it's hard. I mean, we've been telling people our Davidson game, even though it was a road game, is going to be very similar to, a lot of A-10 games. And with the exception of the few tough ones we've had, I mean, even our wins have been battles. So, but in conference play, when you're on the road, it's a bear. I mean, for Wisconsin to go to Indiana and win just recently, I mean, that's an unbelievable road victory if you've ever been in that place. So I think it's par for the course this time of year. I mean, February is such a mental toughness time of the year, and it's easier to be a little bit more comfortable at home because you've got the crowd, you've got the energy, you take a little bit more risk. Your bench guys take a little bit more risk because they're not as, coaches aren't as, will let a bench guy play a little bit more at home for comfort's sake. Whereas on the road, he might, make a mistake or a couple turnovers and like, you know what, let's sub him. So all those things figure into that home road deal.
Up against our next break, Coach. We'll step aside for a moment and come back with more of the show. The phone number 704-332-0173. You're listening to the Allen Majors Show from IMG College. Well, back here at Wild Wing Cafe, the Allen Majors Show. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. About 5 more minutes left of the show. I think last week somebody snuck a call in with about 90 seconds left.
Yeah, they did.
So I think it was Tommy. Let's see if Tommy wants to call. You got 5 minutes this time, Tommy.
That's right.
UMass coming up this weekend, Coach, and we talked about the game a little bit and also being homecoming and the Niners, the month of February. I know we're not going to look ahead and talk about all these games, but
you are.
No, just kidding. The month of February is it's a bear. The whole season is, of course, but this month, and we're going to take it one at a time. And with UMass coming up next. It's a game against a team that wants to play up tempo. What you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you slow them down? Of course, Chaz Williams is their biggest scorer, and we did a great job against LaSalle trying to take at least one of those two guys out of the mix for them. With Galloway not having a great night.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's a game which we certainly want to try and slow them down.
Yeah, and you do it by committee. To say to Perrier or Denzel DeMario, whoever ends up guarding them, having that matchup. It's unfair to say you got him. All right. So you've got to do it by committee. And, in transition, you do it by committee as he's racing up the floor. He's got to have this illusion of bodies. Like there's nowhere to go. I can't get where I want to go. He's coming off a pick and roll. He's got to see bodies. We got to – Nick Saban used an unbelievable quote one time. He's talking about us playing against a speedy team. And he said, you got to put sideboards on your defense. And I thought that was a great way to put it, meaning that, when speedy guys get outside, they're a handful. Well, if you can keep them contained and have sideboards on your defense, it can help you. So that's what we'll have to do with Chaz.
Do we have a phone call?
Tommy is on the line.
Tommy. Do I can just throw some other names out there. Let's have Bill call and John call. And hey, Tommy, welcome to the Allen Major Show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I've got your phone number memorized now.
Well, good.
How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing fine. How y'all doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do you practice alley-oop dunk plays? Is that part of your practice routine, or do those just come naturally during the game?
There's a couple of things we have in. We haven't used them a ton. The one we got the other day against GW was like a read thing. And, I had the right guy throwing it, Perrier, on underneath out of bounds. GW
nice.
played zone. Yeah, and then they just kind of snuck behind them and got up in the air. So as the second half of the season approaches, don't be surprised if you see maybe one or two other looks. Don't tell anybody. But, you try to do some things maybe in the back half of the season that people haven't prepared for.
Yeah, I think those are real good, especially when you're playing at home. That can really get everybody energized.
Yep, and I like it when the ball goes through the rim too.
Yep. Okay. Well, appreciate the answer.
Thanks so much for the call, Tommy. Go Niners, buddy.
Yep. Go Niners.
Thank you, Tommy. I just figured it out. It took me 12 years to figure it out, but all I have to do is ask somebody to call.
Yeah, yeah. I got a confession. Tommy's one of my high school buddies from back home. He's just trying to make me feel good. No, I'm just kidding.
That's pretty good. So he got it in before the show's over here today.
You know, talking about that play, though, the alley-oop play, the commentators for the game on Saturday on TV talked about, and I can't remember which one said it, but they weren't particularly fond of the alley-oop, but they liked the way that it was done because the spacing was there.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things that was hurried. And I think we had one on a transition, too,
Yeah.
that we did. So, and I thought that was a compliment because it looked like it was rehearsed. It looked like it was practiced.
Yeah, and that's a credit to Perry Henry because both those were just basketball plays. The one underneath out of bounds where he hit DeMario, and then he threw one to you recall against Davidson he threw one to Darian too, and the other one was to Darian on the break, and those were just unscripted plays. So when guys can do that within the framework, that's when it's the best.
And it's not the easiest thing to do to lob it up and have it in the right spot at the right time.
Hard to do, definitely.
Coach, give us, before we finish this show up, we got about 2 minutes left, give us some keys to a win against UMass.
Well, I think our execution, because one of the best ways to keep them out of transition is taking care of the ball and taking good shots. And now they have to actually inbound the ball to try to attack you as opposed to rebounding it or stealing it to try to attack you. So if we can do that, that'll be great. And then obviously containing Chaz and just showing him that it's going to be tough to get to the rim and do what he wants to do. Not that he's their only guy, but he triggers a lot. And then making sure that we rebound the basketball, so they don't get second, third opportunities, keeping them out of those drive and kick situations, because if there's no drives, then there are no kicks. So,
Coach, well said, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you,
Hopefully
fellas.
a good one.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here from Wild Wing Cafe. And Saturday is homecoming, 1:30 airtime here on ESPN 730. 2 o'clock tip against UMass. Want everybody to come out and support the Niners as go for win number 17.
Yes, sir.
Coach, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
For Alan Major, Matt Square, this is Lanny Ford. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night.